Everyone at the SEAL team base noticed the new recruit the moment she arrived. Emma was different, not the usual towering figure or boisterous personality. She was small, quiet, and moved with a calm that made people uneasy. The veterans exchanged glances, unsure whether to take her seriously. Some even wondered if she'd last a month, much less survive the grueling training ahead. Emma didn't speak much. Her silence wasn't arrogance, it was focus. She studied everything. The routines, the equipment, the way the seasoned SEALs carry themselves. She was determined, but understood the mountain she had to climb. The other recruits were noisy, confident, but Emma knew that out here, confidence meant nothing without skill. Her first few weeks were tough. The training pushed everyone to their limits and beyond. Early mornings, endless drills, cold nights, under the stars. The team watched her closely, noting her steady hands, but doubting her ability to perform under pressure. Emma wasn't flashy. She wasn't the loudest in the room. But she had something that many of them didn't: patience and unshakable calm. One afternoon, during a break, a few team members gathered near the firing range. They whispered about the new girl. Some doubted her marksmanship. One veteran, Mark, shook his head and said quietly, "She's green. She won't hit anything beyond 50 yards. Others nodded. No one said it outright to Emma, but the doubt was clear. Emma heard nothing. She didn't need to. Her eyes narrowed as she looked downrange at the target set far beyond normal training distances. That was her challenge. She wanted to prove them wrong, not with words, but with one perfect shot. The next day, the team prepared for a special sniper exercise, the hardest one yet. The target was set nearly a mile away. Even the best snipers struggled to hit it consistently. The SEALs were tense. The stakes felt higher than ever. Emma volunteered. The room went quiet. No one expected her to say yes. Some glanced at each other in surprise. The team leader raised an eyebrow, but nodded. This was the moment to test if she belonged or if the doubts were right. Emma moved to the firing position. She felt the cold metal of the rifle against her cheek. The wind whispered through the trees, rustling leaves. Her breath slowed, heart steady. She blocked out everything else, the skepticism, the tension, the weight of watching eyes. The world around her seemed to fade. All that mattered was the tiny black dot miles away, the target. Years of training, discipline, and quiet determination brought her here. She adjusted the scope, calculated the wind, the distance, the slightest movement. The team waited, holding their breath. Mark's jaw tightened. "No way," he muttered under his breath. Emma took a deep breath and squeezed the trigger. The bullet cut through the air, invisible but deadly. The tiny target shattered silently, falling apart into dust. A hush fell over the range. No one moved. No one spoke. The impossible had just happened. For the first time, the SEAL team looked at Emma with new eyes. Eyes that no longer doubted but respected. They saw the quiet strength in her calm, the skill beneath her silence. Emma lowered her rifle, a faint smile touching her lips. She hadn't needed to prove anything with words. One shot had done all the talking. From that moment on, the whispers of doubt began to fade. She belonged not because she was loud or brash, but because she was steady, precise, and unbreakable. The journey ahead would be harder, the missions more dangerous, but Emma was ready. She had earned her place in silence. The morning air was crisp and sharp as the SEAL team gathered for what everyone called the impossible shot. The target was set at nearly a mile away, a distance that challenged even the most experienced marksman. Veteran snipers had tried and failed before, leaving the team frustrated and tense. Emma stood among them, calm but quietly determined. Today was more than just another training exercise. It was a test of everything she had learned and everything she hoped to prove. The briefing was brief but intense. The wind speed, the humidity, even the curvature of the earth, all factors that could throw off a shot at this range. The team leader looked over the group, eyes lingering on Emma. A silent question hung in the air. Could she really pull this off? As the team moved to their positions, Emma's heart steadied. The world narrowed down to the rifle in her hands and the tiny black dot barely visible through the scope. She felt the familiar weight settle on her shoulder. Her fingers adjusted the scope, her breath measured and slow. Around her, other snipers were struggling to focus, some wiping sweat from their brows, nerves evident in their twitching fingers. Emma's steady calm stood in sharp contrast. The wind played tricks, shifting directions unpredictably. Emma remembered her training, patience above all. She waited for the perfect moment, feeling the rhythm of nature around her. Her mind was clear, no second-guessing, no room for doubt. Behind her, the team watched in silence. Some had never seen her this focused, and others were beginning to question their earlier assumptions. She was small, yes, but her presence now felt larger than life. She breathed in slowly, then exhaled. The scope aligned with the target. She calculated the trajectory, the wind, the distance. Time seemed to slow. Then, with a quiet click, she fired. The bullet screamed through the air, slicing the silence. The target shattered into tiny fragments, falling away like dust in the wind. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but stunned silence. Then came the slow, growing realization. The impossible shot had been made. The team leader's eyes widened. Mark, who had openly doubted her before, shook his head in disbelief. Some of the veterans exchanged glances, their skepticism replaced with astonishment. Emma lowered her rifle, her face calm but proud. She hadn't spoken a word, but her shot had spoken volumes. That single moment changed everything. The doubts that once shadowed her like a heavy cloud began to lift. The team started to see Emma not as the quiet newcomer, but as one of their own, someone who could be trusted when it mattered most. Yet, beneath the triumph, Emma knew this was only the beginning. The real challenges lay ahead, where the stakes would be far higher, and failure could cost lives. She understood that today's success was a milestone, not the finish line. As the team packed up, Emma's thoughts drifted to the missions she would face. The silence of the training range would be replaced by the chaos of real operations. But she felt ready. She had proved to herself and to the team that she could perform under pressure. Later, when the group gathered for debriefing, the mood was different. Conversations about Emma's shot filled the room. She listened quietly, feeling a sense of belonging she had not known before. Mark approached her quietly and nodded. "You've got the eye and the nerve," he said. "I misjudged you." Emma smiled softly. "Thanks. I just wanted a chance to show it." The team leader added, "This isn't just luck. You've got something rare. Keep it up." Emma felt a surge of determination. The road ahead would be long and hard, but she was ready to face it head on. She wasn't just fighting for respect anymore. She was fighting for her place in the team and for the mission. The impossible shot was no longer impossible. It was her reality. And with that, Emma's journey was only beginning. Emma settled into her position, the cold metal of the rifle pressed gently against her cheek. Around her, the world seemed to hold its breath. The trees whispered softly in the wind, but inside her mind, everything was quiet, no doubts, no distractions. Only the faint rhythm of her heartbeat, steady and slow, matched the rise and fall of her breath. She had been here before, countless times during training. But today, the stakes felt different. The seasoned SEALs who watched her were no longer merely curious. Some were skeptical, others silently rooting for her to fail. She could almost hear their thoughts, the doubts lingering just beyond the surface. Emma knew she had to block it all out. Her fingers rested lightly on the trigger. She scanned the distant target through her scope, a tiny, almost invisible dot miles away. Every movement mattered. Even the slightest tremor could send the bullet off course. She adjusted her aim, taking into account the wind's subtle changes, the humidity, the distance, and the arc the bullet would take. Time slowed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows. The tension among the team was palpable. No one dared to speak, afraid to break the fragile silence. Mark, her harshest critic, stood tense, his eyes fixed on her every move. Emma could feel his disbelief, but she also sensed something else, a grudging respect beginning to stir. Her breathing was steady, controlled. She counted silently in her head, 1, 2, 3, and exhaled slowly. The world outside narrowed to the scope's crosshairs and the faint outline of the target. Her mind emptied of everything else. This was the moment she had trained for, the moment that could change everything. Then, with a soft but deliberate squeeze, she fired. The shot rang out, sharp and clear in the still air. The bullet flew, cutting a straight, unwavering path through space. The team's collective breath caught. Everyone waited, eyes locked on the distant target. Then, the impossible happened. The target shattered into pieces, silently falling apart like dust in the wind. No cheers, no applause, just stunned silence. Mark's jaw clenched. The others stared, unable to look away. Emma lowered her rifle slowly, the weight of her success settling over her like a warm cloak. She had done it, not with flash or noise, but with calm precision. The team leader finally broke the silence. "That shot," he said quietly, "was one of the cleanest I've ever seen." Emma felt a rush of relief, but also something deeper, a new sense of belonging. She wasn't just the quiet girl anymore. She was a sniper they could count on. But even as the team began to nod with approval, Emma's mind was already racing ahead. She knew the real battles wouldn't be won on a training range. The true test would come when the stakes were life and death, when every shot mattered beyond practice and drills. That moment of calm had shown her what she was capable of, but it also reminded her of what was at risk. In the field, silence was not just a quiet moment, it was survival. As the others began to gather their gear, Emma stayed behind, looking once more through her scope. The sun had nearly set, and the world was growing darker. But inside her, a quiet fire burned stronger than ever. She was ready for whatever came next. The morning was cold and still, the kind of quiet that made every sound sharper. Emma felt the familiar weight of her rifle against her shoulder as she settled into position. Around her, the SEAL team prepared silently, each member lost in their own thoughts. Today was no longer training. This was different. The target was real, the stakes higher than ever. The mission briefing had been clear: eliminate the threat without raising alarm. Every detail mattered. There was no room for error. Emma knew this wasn't just about skill, it was about nerves, about keeping calm when everything screamed chaos. She had faced doubt before, but now, the lives of her teammates depended on her focus. The team moved in close support, trusting Emma to be the eyes and the silence. The target was hidden among enemy guards, alert and dangerous. One wrong move, one missed shot, and the mission would spiral into disaster. Emma took a deep breath, blocking out the cold, the noise of the world, even the pounding of her own heart. Her eyes scanned the distance through her scope. The target moved slowly, a shadow among shadows. Emma's fingers found the perfect moment, the tiny opening when the guards shifted their attention away. She adjusted for wind, for distance, for the slightest tremor in her hands. The seconds stretched, each heartbeat a drum in her ears. The team waited, silent and tense. Emma's breath was steady now, slower, practiced. This was the moment where training met reality. With a soft, precise squeeze of the trigger, the bullet left the barrel. It flew through the air, silent, invisible. The enemy guard dropped without a sound. The threat eliminated before anyone could react. The operation continued smoothly, the team moving forward under the cover of silence. Emma felt a surge of relief, but didn't allow herself to relax. She remained alert, ready for the next move, for the next challenge. The mission wasn't over. But in that quiet instant, she had proven something vital. Her shot could save lives. The team leader nodded at her from a distance, a rare smile breaking through his usually stern expression. Mark, who had once doubted her, gave a subtle thumbs up. The respect wasn't loud or flashy. It was quiet, earned in the silence of a perfect shot. As the team exfiltrated, Emma's mind replayed the moment. The years of training, the relentless practice, the patience, all coming together in that single crucial act. She wasn't just the quiet recruit anymore. She was the sniper who could be counted on when it mattered most. Back at base, the story spread slowly among the ranks. Emma's shot became a legend, not for noise or celebration, but for the silent power it held. The mission's success was a reminder that sometimes the quietest actions make the loudest difference. Emma knew the road ahead would be filled with more challenges. But she also knew that her strength wasn't in making noise. It was in the calm before the shot, the silence after, and the lives saved in between. Her journey had only just begun. The base was quieter than usual when Emma returned from a mission. The tension that had gripped the team slowly began to lift, replaced by a heavy, reflective silence. No one shouted or celebrated. Instead, there was a shared understanding that something had shifted, quietly but profoundly. Emma walked through the mess hall, feeling eyes on her from every corner. The veterans who had once doubted her now watched with a mix of respect and curiosity. She wasn't just the newcomer anymore. She was the sniper who had changed the course of the mission with a single silent shot. Mark approached her slowly. His expression was unreadable at first, but then he nodded. "You did good," he said simply, the weight of those words heavier than any praise. Emma looked at him, sensing the grudging respect that had replaced his earlier skepticism. It wasn't a celebration, but it was real. The team leader called a meeting later that day. The room was tight, filled with faces both familiar and new. His voice was calm but firm. "Emma's shot saved lives today. That kind of precision, that kind of calm under pressure, that's what we need. She's earned her place here." No cheers erupted. Instead, there was a quiet acknowledgement, the kind that comes with understanding the cost of their work, the lives on the line, the moments when silence speaks louder than words. Emma sat quietly, feeling the weight of their gazes, but also their acceptance. She thought back to the early days, the doubts, the whispered conversations, the long nights wondering if she belonged. Now, those memories felt distant, almost unreal. She had fought not just for her skill to be recognized, but for her place in a brotherhood built on trust. The team began to include her more. In briefings, she was asked for input. In training, she was pushed alongside the best. The veterans who had once doubted her now sought her advice. The quiet strength she carried had become a steady anchor for the group. But Emma knew the journey wasn't over. Respect was earned every day, through every mission, every shot, every choice. She carried that truth with her, ready to prove herself again and again. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Emma stood alone outside the barracks. The cool air wrapped around her like a blanket. She looked up at the stars, silent witnesses to the path she had chosen. She thought of the moments of doubt and fear and how far she had come. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mark. "You've got the eye and the nerve. Keep pushing." It was brief, but meant everything. Emma smiled, feeling the quiet power of those words. She wasn't just a sniper or a soldier. She was part of something bigger, a team, a mission, a legacy. And in that quiet moment, beneath the vast night sky, Emma knew she had found her home. The days after the mission were filled with an unusual mix of calm and anticipation. Emma knew that the real test was not just in a single shot, but in the trust and teamwork that would follow. The SEAL team's eyes no longer lingered on her with doubt, but with cautious respect. Yet, Emma remained grounded. She understood that one moment of success did not erase all the battles ahead. Training intensified. The team pushed harder, their exercises growing more complex and dangerous. Emma was no longer the quiet observer. She was a key player. Yet, the pressure to perform perfectly never eased. Every movement was scrutinized, every shot weighed against the standard she had set. During one intense night exercise, the team was tasked with a simulated hostage rescue. The tension was palpable. Emma's role was clear: provide cover, eliminate threats from a distance, and remain invisible. She lay on the cold ground, rifle steady, heart beating in rhythm with the darkness around her. Through her scope, she watched the target building, shadows moving like ghosts. The mission demanded silence, precision, and nerves of steel. Every second counted. Emma's mind raced, calculating distances, wind, and timing. She knew a single mistake could cost the mission. Suddenly, movement. An enemy guard stepped into view, unaware of the danger. Emma's finger tightened on the trigger. Her breath slowed. The world narrowed. Then the shot, swift, silent, decisive. The guard dropped without a sound. The team moved in, completing the rescue flawlessly. The success of that night solidified Emma's position. The team's trust in her was no longer tentative but firm. She was part of something bigger, a brotherhood bound by silent strength and shared risks. Yet, the quiet moments remained the hardest. When the adrenaline faded, and Emma was alone with her thoughts, the weight of her choices pressed down. The responsibility to protect, to act with precision, to remain calm under fire. It was a burden she carried silently. One afternoon, during a rare break, Emma sat with Mark. They talked, not about missions or tactics, but about life beyond the uniform. Mark shared stories of his family, his struggles, and hopes. Emma listened, realizing that beneath the tough exterior, they were both fighting battles unseen. That moment of connection reminded Emma that strength was not just about skill with a rifle, but about resilience, the ability to keep going when everything felt uncertain. As weeks turned into months, Emma's story spread beyond the team. She was no longer just a recruit who proved herself with a perfect shot. She was a symbol of perseverance, patience, and quiet power. Her journey was far from over. Each mission brought new challenges, new doubts to overcome. But Emma faced them head-on, with steady hands and a calm heart. And in the silence before every shot, she found her strength, the strength that had transformed doubt into respect, silence into power, and a quiet girl into a legend. The call came just before dawn, piercing the quiet of the base like a warning siren. Emma was already awake, preparing her gear. The team was to deploy immediately, an extraction mission gone sideways deep in hostile territory. Lives were at stake, and every second mattered. As the chopper lifted off, Emma felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, but beneath it, a steady calm settled over her. This was the moment she had trained for. The uncertainty of the unknown loomed large, but she had learned that in the midst of chaos, silence and precision were her greatest allies. Upon landing, the team moved swiftly and silently through dense jungle, shadows blending with the dawn's first light. Emma took her place at the rear, eyes scanning for threats. Her rifle was an extension of herself, every breath, every heartbeat in sync with its weight. The target zone was chaotic, gunfire echoed in the distance, and the faint cries of trapped comrades pushed the team forward. Emma's heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She found vantage points, calculated distances, and communicated quietly through hand signals. Suddenly, an enemy combatant stepped into view, threatening the team's advance. Emma didn't hesitate. The shot was clean and silent, neutralizing the threat before it could raise alarm. The team pressed onward, moving closer to the trap squad. The extraction point was surrounded, the enemy tightening their grip. Emma spotted another threat, farther away, but no less dangerous. She adjusted her scope, accounting for distance, wind, and the thick underbrush. With a steady finger, she fired again. The target dropped silently, giving the team a crucial opening. As the trap squad emerged, the team provided cover fire, moving with practiced precision. Emma covered every angle, each shot deliberate and measured. The tension was thick, but her calm under fire steadied those around her. The extraction was successful, but the mission had pushed everyone to their limits. Back at base, there was no fanfare, only the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Emma's role was acknowledged in nods and brief words, a language of respect forged in shared danger. That night, as the team gathered around a small fire, Emma sat quietly, reflecting on the day. The weight of responsibility pressed on her, but so did a deep sense of purpose. She wasn't just a marksman. She was a guardian of lives, a silent force holding the line. Mark approached her, offering a rare smile. "You kept us alive today," he said. Emma nodded, knowing the truth of those words. It wasn't just the shots she took, but the steadiness she brought in the face of chaos. In the silence that followed, Emma understood something profound. Strength wasn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it was the quiet confidence that held everything together when the world threatened to fall apart. Her journey, marked by silent victories and whispered respect, was far from over. But in moments like these, she knew she was exactly where she needed to be, calm, focused, and ready for whatever came next. The final mission came unexpectedly, sharp and urgent. Intelligence had identified a high-value target deep in enemy territory, someone who had evaded capture for years and was planning an attack that could cost countless lives. The SEAL team assembled quickly, the air thick with tension and anticipation. Emma stood among them, calm but ready, knowing this operation would define everything she had worked for. The journey to the target zone was silent, the team moving like shadows beneath a moonless sky. Every step was deliberate, every breath controlled. Emma's mind was focused, her fingers steady on her rifle. The pressure was immense, but she felt a strange clarity. This was what she had trained for. This was the moment when all doubt vanished. They reached their positions just as dawn began to break. Emma found her vantage point, hidden and secure, with a clear line of sight on the target's compound. The enemy was alert, patrolling in tight formations. But Emma's years of training told her patience was key. She waited for the perfect moment, watching the movements, calculating every variable. Then it happened. The target stepped into the open, exposed for just a fraction of a second. Emma's breath slowed, her heart beat steady and sure. She aligned her scope, adjusted for distance and wind, and squeezed the trigger. The shot was clean, precise, and silent. The target disintegrated in an instant, collapsing without a sound. The team moved quickly, securing the area before the enemy could react. The mission was over in moments, a victory born from years of preparation and unwavering focus. Back at base, The weight of the operation settled over everyone. There were no celebrations, only a shared sense of accomplishment and relief. Emma sat quietly, her thoughts swirling. She had proven herself time and again, but this final shot felt different. It was the culmination of every doubt she had faced, every moment of silence, every whispered word of encouragement. Mark approached her, eyes reflecting the respect that had grown over time. "You did what many thought impossible," he said softly. Emma nodded, feeling the quiet pride that came from knowing she belonged. In the days that followed, Emma's story spread beyond the team. She was no longer the recruit who had to prove herself. She was a legend, a symbol of precision, patience, and silent strength. But for Emma, the real victory was deeper. It was in the trust she had earned, the bonds she had built, and the knowledge that in the quiet moments, she had found her true power. The SEAL team moved forward, ready for whatever challenges awaited. Emma, once doubted, now stood as a steady force, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful actions happen in silence, and the quietest people can leave the loudest impact.